Hello and God bless you. This is Ellen Mongan and welcome to Go Tell the World. It's our new show. We have 12 co-hosts that do the show, but today we have a special guest and I'm the co-host and the host. And so welcome Nicole Boudreaux. I always want to call her Nicole Plowman because she plows the field before it seeds to the next person. The next person has to till the field. So Nicole is a Boudreaux, really, and she's a delight, and she brings the world joy and hope, and that's what we need, a little bit of hope and a little bit of joy. So Nicole, introduce yourself, because I think it'd be great.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, so introduce yourself. Tell them about who you are.
Okay. Well, Nikki, I go by Nikki, but Nikki Plowman Boudreaux, so I was a plowman before, and I've been married for 32 years, and I have 3 children. They are 29. My son is 29, Jack. And then I have a daughter, Ashley, who's 27. And then my youngest daughter is Courtney, and she's 23, and she's in grad school for speech pathology.
Nice.
So, so a little bit about that is that it'll be, I also, in my previous life, I was an occupational therapist as well. I practiced in adult neuro for 20 years prior to my stroke. So
our stroke, which turned out a blessing in disguise, but it's like one of those trials you don't want to choose or go through. Right. You go through it, right. That she has a story to tell, and you're going to get some hope from this story. So Nicole, how'd you meet Todd? I just wonder how you met Todd, because I don't really know your love story before you started on your miracle story. How'd you meet Todd?
Oh, I met Todd actually, we went to the same school. We went to Alley Community School, and we both graduated together. And then he ended up being my high school sweetheart. I guess we weren't really supposed to call high school sweethearts back then.
We think it's a beautiful love story.
We went to separate colleges. I went to MCG, and Todd went to UGA. And then I was an occupational therapist, so I graduated in 1991. And I graduated, got a job, and got married all within that year.
Okay. And it's like they say love doesn't last from young love, but it does. I know so many high school sweethearts that got married, and that, you know what, God picks the person that you're supposed to marry. And right. I just love the fact of Nicole and Todd went through this trial together, and I was outside looking in. Wasn't a close friend of Nicole. I'm like 100 years older than her, but then I watched the story unfold and how he stood by you. So please include some of that in the story, because when you go through a trial, there's a cross to bear. It's on either side. If one person takes one and one shoulders the other, you can kind of make it like Simon, carry the cross of Jesus. But to carry it alone, that's a really hard thing. So give them hope about that, because the husband, he was key in this healing process, and the children.
Right.
So tell apparently you were an athlete. Are you still proud?
What? But yeah, still am not athlete. So I was 41 years old. Well, actually, when I was 39, I actually signed up to do my first half marathon, because I thought, I'm turning 40. I wanted to, do something. And so I did a half marathon in Augusta, and I was like, oh, I'll do that again. And so then there was a relay team for the Ironman. So there's Augusta 70.3, so it's a half Ironman. And so I signed up to do the run. So one of my neighbors did the swim, and another neighbor did the bike, and I did the run. And I was just so inspired by, oh my goodness, with all these people with special needs, of physical disabilities, of levels or whatever, it was so inspiring to see them continue and do these things. So my husband and I both signed up for 2 teams. So I was doing the full thing. And my husband was doing the full thing. And so with the triathlon, you end up doing a 1.2 mile swim down the river, 56-mile bike, and then you do 13.1 mile run. And then, so that's a lot. But, I thought, I just want to do something like that. So, and my husband and I were just going to do it once and be done, we want to say we did it. So we did the whole thing, and I felt great, I had just been, so I was 41 when that happened. And I had gone to my regular checkup my physician, just regular checkup. And he was like, you're going to be so healthy. There's no reason, you know, you'll always be fine. You'll probably be 100. And I just never had any problems. I didn't have any migraines, never had headaches, never had any problems. I mean, I literally had never had problems with my health. And then 4 days later, I was at the gym and I had a brain hemorrhage. It just ruptured. And thankfully, I was at the right place at the right time, because a lot of times you'll fall asleep and go to sleep and you won't wake up. Or, you know, I would have been home alone and my daughter probably would have come home, you know. So it is a blessing in disguise, because it, you know, it wasn't my time to go, I guess, you know. And so
you think about your story.
So what I know from when I was at the gym is more what I was told, because at that point I was like out of it, you know. But there was a doctor just happened to be working out that day. So my friends grabbed a doctor over, and he had said, you know, she needs, you know, EMT delivered and brought me to doctor's hospital. They brought me to doctor's hospital. I guess they just thought, you know, it's closer where I was to. And I live in Evans, Georgia. So they got me to doctor's hospital, and they were able to see the scan and such. And my dad actually got there, and my husband was in court. He's an attorney, so he was in court that day.
Your dad's a physician, right? Your dad's a physician. Thank God for your dad.
My dad's a physician. So my husband was looking at the scans, and, you know, he's not in the medical field, so he didn't know quite what that meant. He's like, is she coming home tomorrow or what? And my dad saw the scan, and my dad just, you know, he had a hard time with that, because I'm the only girl, and, you know, and he knew what that meant. And so anyways, and then I don't remember saying this, but I guess I said this, and my dad and my husband had heard me say that. I said, don't leave me. I turned to my husband, don't leave me. And so my dad and my husband said they can't ever forget that, because it was just that moment, you know.
Desperation.
Mm-hmm. And so then they were able to transfer me over to doctor's hospital, to University Hospital, because Dr. Abramson, you know, had already been aware of what was going on. He's one of the neurosurgeons. And then the neurologist had closed down his office and came and checked on me too. Because, you know, we're very good friends. And also, you know, as I said, I used to do adult neuro, so I knew all the doctors and stuff too. But when they got me to University Hospital, I guess the clot was really, you know, I had a clot and the swelling was really bad. So, but they were able to get the swelling they were able to get me off the vent, I guess, in 2 days, you know, because I really at just the peak of my health. Actually, I'd just been in a very good, for a bad thing to happen, it was a really good time for being a very healthy person.
a healthy person in the hospital. Yes, yeah. That's okay though. See, that's how God does work. I like, just before we just pause for a minute, I like how you put everything in place. The friend, the one who is not too scared or too shy to grab the doctor, and then the daddy was a doctor pretty much all his life that she's known him, and then her husband to come right. And it does help, Nicole. Do you think? Don't leave me, because when you have the love of family, it makes you have hope that you're going to get better. So then the doctor had to do emergency surgery on the emergency.
Actually, he didn't have to do emergency surgery. He wanted to wait for swelling to go down. So thankfully, a lot of times they were emergent. Now it was still squirting, the blood was still squirting in my brain, but they wanted to get the swelling down a little bit more so they could do the surgery, because the AVM was so deep in. So they wanted to make sure that they had to go in there and do the work. And then they thought that they would, it would be 4 hours of brain surgery, but it ended up being 8 hours because they had a clot there too, so a really big clot. So they had to remove the clot and then to clip the AVM and such too. So
you lost me. AVM, guys, help me out. AVM.
So an AVM is, an arterial venal malformation. And so an AVM is a condition I was born with. And
that's what I'm saying. So you're born with it. It's not like a caught.
The arteries and the veins, they kind of twist and knot and such. And so a lot of times people get migraines and headaches because the knots and stuff. But I never had any problems. I mean, I never had any symptoms. I had no idea I was born with this condition. I had no idea.
No one could have checked. They could have checked for that, the doctors, like when you're born. So that is just one of those things you just want to. This is the part that I found very intriguing. When Nicole and I met in our hairdresser, we had seen each other. We keep going. I go in hairdo by Dee. Nicole really probably had help. I didn't have help today. Dee knows, but hairdo by Dee from us. But the thing is, it wasn't just a magic wand and you're better now. Go forth, bear fruit. No, it was a process that she had to take. People pray for miracles all the time, Nicole, but with God, a miracle happens instantly. But a miraculous event, it takes a growing of time. You had to do certain things to get better, right? You had to do certain things.
Yeah, a lot.
It's like climbing the I can't even think of a big mountain, the Appalachians.
So when they took me off the vent, I was much more alert of what was going on. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had a stroke, I think, because I had the whole right side I couldn't see. And I was trying to turn to people, like, look on this side, on the left side. I couldn't see this side. And I thought I was making sense, but I wasn't making any sense. People were just like, they were being polite, but it was when I saw my son's face when he had to walk out of the room, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't make sense, and so it's called aphasia. And so it's like trouble with the words and such. And so I then had to, they started some therapy on me, but they wanted to wait for do the surgery because they thought that I was probably going to be in a coma for a little while too.
Did you go in Nicole? I didn't know the part. Did you go in a coma?
Actually, yes. Surgery a week later, they did the surgery, and then the next day I was up.
You're like, yeah.
And but I remember being when I was there in ICU, I was thinking, why am I not freaking out? Why am I just being calm? Why am I not freaking out? But I did feel like, because I remember my parents always had this prayer when I was young, and it was like the four corners of your bed will be always protected. And so I was like, I don't know why I'm not freaking out. I mean, granted, they do give you medication too, but also it's like, it's not enough. I mean, I was worried about my kids, and I've never been. They depend on me. I had 2 in high school and 1 in middle school at the time, and I was worried about everything, but I didn't. I just sat there like, okay, what's going to be okay? It's going to be okay. And then when they were planning to do the surgery, actually the day before the surgery, they were having to cut a big clunk of my hair, and it was not a day at the spa. They just
like our hair looking kind of good.
Chunk your hair out, and for the surgery, And so my younger daughter was 11 at the time, and so she was right there, and they were clipping the hair out, and actually I think they handed the hair to my mom, and so she still has the hair actually, but I told her she can have it.
Everybody had her numbered, and they counted. Well, that was hard for her, I'm sure, Nicole, as a mother, as who's right. Across my son who died. When you watch your child suffer, and you think, I know Diane's a woman of faith, though, and your dad as well. So they stood for her and by her, and her husband as well. I know both families, Nicole's and the Boudreaux family, they're both praying families, which, I know all of his 8 or 7 brothers are praying as well.
Yes, I know. My husband has 1 and 7 boys.
Yes. There's a lot of plowman boys as well. So there's no good time, Nicole, for a tragedy. But then I just find, so the steps back, you're in the hospital, then you go, the steps back were when you got out of the hospital, you got to go home, but you really didn't get to re-enter your life right away. You had some other steps to take. You went home though, and I love the part that people came through for you. People came through the meals and.
So we did the surgery, and then the next day I still had problems, but they were going to let me go into inpatient therapy. Okay. So I went home, but I had to have people with me 24/7 because they wanted to make sure, just in case I had a seizure,
Sure.
they wanted to have somebody monitor me. So my kids were in school, and my son had a driver's license, so he was able to drive and go get my food and take care of some things. And I had to get a lot of rest. And but I did have a lot of friends who, helped me and were there and had some meal plans going too. And so, and then I couldn't drive for a year. So people had to drive me, to get the therapy. And I couldn't read at all. So like I was able to write things down, but I didn't read. I mean, and so, it's very humbling when you're dependent. I mean, they're in my home, and everyone's checking on my, in my house, and, and I'm like the one who has to go in there and go take naps, and, but I was able to wash my hair and brush my teeth, and, I was able to take care of my self-care, but I wasn't able to like follow a recipe or try to cook anything because I couldn't read and know the difference between two-thirds, and, I didn't know how to do that stuff yet.
And surely the best part, though, I love the part too. I know you have more to this part, but when you say that you were an occupational therapy, so then now you're on the other end, and it gives you such insight. I love that part too. I love every part of it, but keep on going, because I can maybe rush the story, and I don't want to do that. I just get excited because it is a miracle, and it's miraculous to see. Like I said, I hadn't seen Nicole for years. I mean, for some reason, we kept bumping into each other. Wherever I went, there she was. I finally caught on. God wants her to tell her story again. She says she's told it many times. It's always given hope, hasn't it?
It is, and actually, I mean, it did. I had to learn how to do a lot of things all over again. I had to cook again. I had to run again. Just, I couldn't drive. But I ended up, so at Walton Rehab on the outpatient clinic, they used to have one that you could do the driving test, so it's called a simulated driving test. It's like a motorized thing. And I passed that part. And then you had to have phase 2, which is someone who does over the road test. So it's an occupational therapist that does that too. So I ended up passing the over the road. So I had a driver's license again. I was like, yay. And I felt like I was in high school, like I'll go to the grocery store.
Anywhere. I feel like that's something too. Let me out. But the thing is, I like the fact that it was humbling, but then it was victory. It wasn't like, this is how it's going to be forever. You had hope to know that you were going to get better, because for one thing, Nikki has a gift of perseverance, and she's a go-getter. She also is an overachiever. Those 3 things set you well. You know what I'm saying? They got you through it. Some people go, I give up now. Well, don't give up. There's hope at the end of the tunnel. So you go on with your story.
Well, then, I ended up doing the, my kids still had their activities, and I wanted to be involved with their activities too. And then my son, had graduated and went to college, and then my other girls were still in school, but so I wanted to be involved with their sports and their school and all of that, but I needed to still get better with myself too. And so I remember my younger daughter, the 11-year-old, she was at the kitchen table, and I was doing my homework and she was on her side doing her homework. And then I said, well, my little girl goes, Mom, do you need help with your homework?
Oh,
like, and you're so humbled by it all, but her big heart and big eyes, and it was just so sweet that I was like, honey, I'm okay. I promise you. I was like, what I need y'all to do is focus. Don't go to jail, and do what I need y'all to do. Like, do your homework, study, do everything you need to be doing, so that I don't have to worry about those things, and I can get better, and they did. All 3 of my kids did that. And then, my husband, has a private practice. And so things were, and then he had to carry on extra responsibilities that I wasn't able to do too. So it can put a toll on you, but he, and honestly, there's a big high divorce rate with this, especially at my age, because your life is different, and not everyone can handle that. Your identity is a little different, and so, but I guess he kind of stuck with me.
Became the hero. Became the hero.
I mean, that was 12 years ago, so he's still hanging out with me.
But Nicole, I know you probably read them in like in the after, you know. But me, I read them as they went along. The things he would write on the special line. What's that called, Nicole? Where he would write, your husband would write little notes every day on something. That was so encouraging. That was so touching. What was that called? Because a lot of people don't know about that.
He did a caring bridge.
Yes, that was helpful to me.
Hmm?
That was helpful to me. That was helpful to me to know how to pray and to see his, you know, it's very encouraging. And so if you don't know about that, people out there, it's called the Caring Bridge. It's at caringbridge.com or .org. You can look that up. And that's a way to tell the other people. And they may want to reach out a helping hand. They just don't know how. And he was able to convey, he's a word guy, so he's able to convey in words. Nicole is as well. I keep calling Nicole, sorry. Nikki is a word person, and that helps because if you don't tell people, how will they know? And they don't, you know, they may think what's going on and they don't want to call because that's just overwhelming sometimes in a tough situation. And her kids were very supportive. I like to see that, kids that come through. It makes the family stronger. You don't like to hear that when you're in it, but after she looked back and see how her children are very close, and it's close-knit family, of course, her family and his were always. So then what did you do to get better on the OT part? We had to learn to say words and better, and then.
Well, I because of what I did in adult neuro, I was able to like rehab a lot of myself on some things. But I because that part of my brain was still there, I remembered what kind of things to work on. But unfortunately, parts that are damaged, you know, are, you know, I had to work around it. So I was learning how to compensate. That's good. And I have a big field cut. So like, you know, in the lower part of my right side of my vision is all 100% gone. You know,
still is gone. You never know it. You're so beautiful, and you have such sparkly eyes. I was gonna wear my sparkle clothes because Nicole makes the room sparkle. She comes alive. It makes the room come alive with it. No, it's very good. It's a gift. It is a gift. So so then you just overcompensate, but no one ever knows. That's good.
I had to work on it because I had to be motivated for my kids too. I needed to live by example. And I thought, you know, there were times I'd take a shower and I just would you know, I'd miss word cry. Because I was like, God, really? Aphasia? I mean, I love to talk. I mean, I can't function my sentence. I can't do any of this stuff. But I remember my neurosurgeon, Dr. Abramson, I love him. He actually, Dr. Abramson, when he was in the hospital, I mean, when I was in the hospital, when he was doing the surgery, he said, my hand's God's work. So, yeah.
Same with my neurosurgeon. Mine is Dr. Macon, and he is actually the same mentality. He goes, here's my credentials. Jesus Christ is my Savior. You know, it's important. So you're in the hands of God. You know, God uses the physicians and the nurses and the OT, and that's why miracles happen through prayer and effort. And then some miraculous thing happens, and like the Red Sea parts.
Right. So, well, they actually thought that it was, I had like maybe a 10% chance of making it. I mean, it was a bad bleed, and they really didn't think that. I mean, I think I had my last rites. I mean, I had so many priests coming in. My parents were just making sure. I mean, in my
I was like, I'll say your confession for you.
They were just making sure, like, yeah, because my dad
could do it. He could do it for
me. He thought, well, I mean, the doctors don't think she's going to make it, you know. So, but my mom actually said she knew that it was going to be okay. She said she just knew that it was okay.
She has those words. She does. She has words of knowledge. Well, that is neat. So we don't want to leave anything out, Nicole. So what was your favorite growth from it? Like looking back and saying, man, I didn't think I'd make it, and I did. I don't know if that'd be You did.
I guess overcoming these obstacles and then to being positive. I had a pretty positive attitude about things. I mean, considering, you know, the alternative. But I mean, you become a lot more grateful because you realize that it could have just that quickly. Your whole life changes. And, you know, I could feel bitter if I wanted to, but I didn't want to feel that way. And God just was directing me the way he wanted me to direct with me. I mean, I did go through some different with these stages of stuff, you know, kind of denial and then fear and anger. You know, I did go through some of those stages.
That's healthy. I think that's healthy. If they're suffering and doesn't know, that is healthy. If you just ignore things, I mean, I remember when I was new in the Lord, there we go, a pickle jar would fall my foot and I'd go, praise God. Now I go like this, it hurts. Because reality is where God has us live. And then we believe in his word and his ways, and he's greater than what we think, see, or believe by hearing our voice. So we have to we feel it before we see it. I know that's true, but then we have to be honest with God. And the more you be honest with God and others, the more they could see a real true person that's a man or woman of sincerity and integrity. And I think she's a godly woman. You always were, but because of this, you return in a different way to a strength in the Lord. I feel like I would too, because I went through 7 car crashes and I could have had surgery on mine. Is it a brain bleed? I could have surgery, but Dr. Rose said, I don't know, if you wanted the surgery, you might not be able to walk or talk. And here's my credentials. But then that did it for me. I like to walk and talk. So I think you have to take a leap of faith when you go through something like this, and know God is bigger. He works all things out for the good. He's never going to leave you barren. He's going to follow you to the finish line. And she wasn't at the finish line yet. So what are your hopes and dreams now? Do you go and do you work with people on this area? Or?
I do. I had done a stroke support group at Doctor's Hospital. That's where I used to work, Well, I worked PRN, so I was at Doctor's Hospital though. But and so we were able to get a stroke support group going, and we called it Stroke of Hope. And I wasn't able to keep my licensing work and stuff like that, but I would show up in once a month, the second Tuesday of the month, we would go to do the stroke support group there. And but then when COVID shut down, things kind of restricted and stuff like that, it's not really been able to resume. And then I think that they just weren't really wanting to get that going, because it's not a profitable field to go into, but I was volunteering at the time. I was reaching out and helping people, because I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I know that when people get discharged, all of a sudden what do you do now? And it's not just that it affects the person, it affects the whole family, really. And so a lot of people would show up for the family support group too. And because it affects us all, and then actually Father Ingram, we were talking at St. Terry's, we're trying to maybe doing a support group going there. It's just I haven't followed up with it.
So his church is the St. Teresa Avila Church in Grovetown, and Father Ingram has taken this little seed of, it's had many priests before him, and he's grown into such a place of faith, but fellowship, faith, and fun. I always tell him he's got the best social activities when we get together. A lot of times Bishop will ask him to host the appreciation dinner for the priests and deacons, and he's always willing, and he's made it a great thing, Nicole. That'd be a real asset. I'm a firm believer in this. There's much work to be done in this world, and you can make a difference, but every person has to do their part in their gifts, and we work together. And what a great world that would be. It'd be a great world. We all did something, and you never guess, at least with me, Nicole, I never guessed, you really want me to do this, like you said, but this is maybe what he wants you to do, because as you give hope to the other person, then they give the hope to the next person. It's a really great way to evangelize. And you don't really have to even say, I'm a Christian, I do this. They know from your joy and hope, that they know. One time I had to give a talk to some mothers that were on, I guess it's, they had to get their children back. And I was giving a talk on parenting, and they go, you can't mention Jesus. And I go, okay. And so I gave the whole talk, and then 3 people came up to me and said, you're a Christian, aren't you? They know you're a Christian by your actions and your love. So I love to lead by example.
But yeah, and at the support groups and stuff, a lot of times people have different stages of what they're going through and such. But I remember, but we didn't really, we did do a quick prayer and such, but, but some people, we had 1 hour. So we needed to talk about, and then there was always a social worker that was there too, which was very helpful for people who needed extra information or whatever, because I'm not up to speed with that, I don't do that. But I just wanted them to have some hope there, and trying to get some help and connections of what was needed there. And just sometimes they just want someone to listen. And I've talked to many people on the phone, been contacted by me, you know, and I'll talk to them and try to help them as much as I can, because I get it, you know, and, you know, and when you go through it, you know, you want to reach out and help other people, because, you know, it can be a lonely world, you know, and I have a very big family.
That's right.
Very big support group. So I felt very, you know, I'm very fortunate that I was never really alone in that, you know, and I know that, like, you know, God's always there, and so we're never alone, but sometimes we'll feel, you know. So I remember, like, I had done the Ironman again, so I was able to do it again. I was on the bike, and I remember thinking, like, oh, that's probably why I'm not supposed to be doing this anymore. Because it was zipping by so quickly, but I was like, God, please help me. I'm really scared about this one. And he did. He helped me right through this. I got through very well. And then I knew I'd be fine once I started to run. But so I did do it again, to say that I did do it again, and overcoming that fear, and, you know, and all that. And, you know, I have some perseverance in me. And but I guess people describe it more like they're, you know, I have the perseverance, I guess, and also the yeah, I guess it is perseverance. Basically, I just continue to go through some things, and sometimes I feel like I'm in Job. I could relate to Job.
You know what the story about Job is, the best part about the story of Job is the last chapter of Job. He got kind of angry with God and he asked a lot of questions, but God knew all the answers. At the end, he goes, I used to know about you from my friends, but now I know you for myself. And we go through something really hard or really scary or really like, I didn't want this. This is not what I had for my day. Then he comes through in such a way, and we go, I can't deny it. He's with me always. And then you're never afraid. Some people get afraid God's going to leave them. Well, I went with this morning with a scripture. It was like this, the kingdom of God is within. So if the kingdom of God is within our hearts, he can't leave us. He's part of, if we accept it, he's part of our life and us. So I do love your story, Nicole. We usually end with two things. First, I said the best thing and the worst thing, like now in this present time, for having had this. And then the last thing is your last word. So I led with last words always. What's your best thing and what's your worst thing that you face now? You say, whoa, wish I could overcome this. Or
I guess my best thing is, let's see, my son's getting married, and we, you know, my kids all finished school, and, like, you know, they're have jobs that, you know, I mean, I guess I'm very, very pleased with things ended up being out the way they are, because, you know, it as I said, a very difficult time for that. But now things are coming up, and now I'm just seeing, like, thank God, just the perseverance, the sticking with things, and going through difficult things is just, I guess that would be one of them. I have a lot of good blessings, I guess I should say, but, like, that would be right now. My son's getting married, in May, and I feel like, you know, and my nephew's getting married in December, and I guess I'm just excited for all these things. And then the hard things are, sometimes, you know, now that my kids are older and doing things, you know, I'm like, sometimes it's part of your identity, because I can't practice as an OT, and I, you know, and my husband has, you know, he has his job, and, you know, so and my kids live in 3 different towns, you know, but I, you know, that can sometimes be hard. But I think
it's called up, unless is anybody living with you, or the kids. So we have my mom 97 and my son living with us right now. So we're not so far. We are trying to be empty nesters someday, one day. But it is,
and I've been helping with my parents.
It is a growth. It is a growth. We have unfortunately moved to Florida during that season of my life, and I didn't realize what it was going to be like. I had no idea. At least you are surrounded by people that love you and friends, but maybe you have a career in media. You never know. You never know what, because you still have your voice and you have your video. You never know. You pray about it, because I know that he always shuts the door and then he opens the window. And I think you're good on air. I told you would be, but you said you weren't shy. We thought. I was want to see that. Let's see. I was going to say the best thing I think that would have come, like I've seen you as a family, is there is a strength that comes for the person that's facing the trial. There's also a strength that the children and Todd picked up. They had to do some things, and who knows if they grumbled or not. We don't care, because they were still doing something really hard, and they probably were worried and scared, but they still stuck with her and picked up that cross every day. Don't ever lessen that. Sometimes the person that's ill or having to carry the cross themselves is just making it through the day. I'm sorry. So just making it through the day. And so the other guys are going like, man, I got to do, I'm not saying they did that, but if they did it. And they did it with grace, and God alone gives that grace. You can't do it on your own. Try it. It may not happen for you. So I just really praise the Lord for the witness, seeing it. I mean, seeing the years go by and what God can do with one yielded vessel. It's a beautiful thing. And you're a great hope. You're a great guest on my show. And what do you want to have the people go away with? What words do you want them to remember?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What do you want the audience to go away with? What do you want them to remember about your story? Think a minute.
Just hope of faith that, I mean, I just know that even though we feel like we go through trials and tribulations and such, God's just there with us, and he carries us. Well, we feel like we give up, and he's the one that carried us. He helps me through those really hard times, and I've been through some hard ones, and I'm right now, it's a little hard because my parents are getting older.
Sure.
And having some, my mom's fallen, and just bringing her to her doctor appointments and such. And I feel like, I'm able to be there at those doctor appointments and understand what's going on. It's, being there with my mom, and just things like that. Or I guess just a spirit of hope. I guess I have hope there that things will continue to carry on and do well.
Yeah, like you said, your parents carried you through that time, and then now you're having to carry them through. I think that's a beautiful thing. But some of you think we'll never get better enough to help anybody else. At least I have that experience myself. And then you go, I'm getting stronger every day, and you thank the Lord for little things that you wouldn't even see had you not been through something really hard. I used to tell this one friend, she's a body mentor. I told her that I used to hate gray days. I want like an up day. Yay, everything's good. There's 2 weddings. I'm happy. And then I went through dark times. I said, man, I'm happy for a gray day. Nothing good, nothing bad. That's what we have ordinary time in our church. Ordinary time means it's nothing good, nothing bad. We're just making it through it. But she always has a smile on her face. You would never know she went through a trial. And I'm going to call her Nikki this time. Nikki, I think that Jesus, and we all know this, they're listening, that Jesus will walk on the water to carry you out of a sinking boat. And he'll carry you to land. And he'll be there for you. He'll carry you through what is hard. And then somebody expects you to walk and tell others. And that's what she's doing. So if I had to stop this show, I'd say, have hope no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, because God's got this one and he's got you too. And have perseverance, because he's giving the grace. So then you got to walk on the water towards him. So that's an important. And we appreciate you. Come on again, Nicole, and I'll send you the tape. And there was no bloopers, so we don't have to erase anything. Thank you so much for being a miracle walk in the Lord. And I hope and pray that your husband and you write that book, because it'd be a bestseller. It would be. I think
if he squeezes it in his time, yeah. But he's
you can dictate it in the microphone to it. May God bless you. And this is Ellen Mongan from Go Tell the World. Now, you may have a miracle to tell today. Why don't you go tell the world yourself and tell them what God is doing in your life? Good to see you. And I'm signing off right now. This is the part that takes me a little time.
No clue. Just got it.